This is going to be a brief introduction to the game of Z-chess. First, I'd like to say that some time ago somebody asked me if I named this game Z-chess because my first name starts with a Z. No, I named it Z-chess because of the Z formations on the board. If you look at the horizontal and then the diagonal and then the horizontal files, there are a lot of Z formations here. Excuse me. Well, let's start looking at how the pieces move. Let's start with the pawn. Just like in conventional chess, from the base position, the pawn can advance one or two circles in the opening. And there are no squares in this game, so I have to talk about circles. And these circles are connected with lines. In the opening, the pawn can move either one or two circles. It can only move diagonally, and it can only move forward. It can never move backwards, and it cannot move horizontally. So if in the opening it moved out, let's say, just one circle, then any additional moves by that pawn can only be one circle at a time in either direction diagonally. If the pawn is able to advance all the way to the last rank, then it can become either a queen, a bishop, a knight, or a rook. Let's also look at how the exchanges can take place with the pawns. Let's say I made this move in the opening, and the opponent responds, moving that pawn. If I continue moving the same pawn, although this may not be a good continuation in the opening, but for the example, let's move here, blocking the way of the opponent's pawn. The opponent's pawn could take my piece of the board. If the opponent didn't do that, let's say the continuation was a knight move, then on the next move I could take that piece of the board. Of course, I don't have to. If I decide, I can go this way. So I don't have to take the pawn. Okay, next let's look at the king. But before we look at how the king moves, I'd like to point out that the kings are exactly in the center of the board. If we draw an imaginary line here over these circles, then we have a vertical file, although there are no vertical files, but we do have to draw those lines in order to be able to create the numberings for those files. The pieces can never move vertically. They can only move either horizontally or diagonally, or as we will see in the case of the rook, it can move diagonally and horizontally in one move. So back to the king. The king can move one circle at a time, either here, 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 or here. Of course, if it was in, let's say, in the middle of the board, then it would have 6 possibilities, moving here, 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 or here, only to a circle that is not under attack by another piece, by the opponent's piece. For example, if this was the position, obviously. This diagonal is controlled by the black bishop, so the king couldn't come either here or here. Cannot move into check. Okay, next let's look at the queen. To move from the base position in the opening, for example, or even later, it can only move if the pawns first move out of the way. Let's say these pawns are not there anymore, then the queen can start moving. The queen can move either diagonally or horizontally, and it cannot turn within the same move. If it starts on a diagonal, it will have to continue and will have to stop on that same diagonal, or if it starts moving horizontally, then it will have to stop on that same horizontal. Now, for example, attacking the king with the queen from this position, the white queen could move here and attack the king on that diagonal, or the white queen could move all the way to the last rank, and then it would attack the king horizontally. If, let's say, the queen is here, let's say there is a pawn here, black pawn. Now, if the queen wanted to move horizontally this way, it could not take this black pawn off the board. Or if it wanted to move diagonally this way, then it could take this pawn. Next, let's look at how the bishop moves. The bishop can move only diagonally. Also, it cannot turn, so it will have to stop on that same diagonal, either moving this way, or it can start moving this way. If, let's say, it moved there, stops there, knight is attacking the king on that diagonal, and it is a check. It cannot move horizontally. If, let's say, it was here, or somewhere in the middle of the board, it would have more options. In this case, it could go in 4 directions, either going this way, or coming back this way, or this way. And the bishop too could take off the opponent's piece if it was blocking its way. For example, moving this way, it could take that pawn. And of course, the queen could then take it, or it could move in this direction, and then it could take this pawn. Again, this would not be a good move, because the black bishop would take my bishop. But for example, from this position, this could be an excellent move, because it would be not catching the rook. The rook would have no way to escape. Okay, let's look at the knight. The knight is the only piece in this game that can jump over other pieces. It moves in an L shape. I'll bring it out here into the open so we can better see. It can start moving in any direction, first advancing 1 circle, and then it will have to turn, either this way, or if it started this way, then it could turn here too. It is not possible to turn on the sharp angle, and this is what I mean. Moving this way would not be possible, or this way. So from this position, the knight could move here, or this is exactly the same move. To every spot where it can go to, it has 2 different ways of going, but it's exactly the same move. Or it could come here, or this way, here or this way, here or this way, here, 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 or here. So here, 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 and here. 8 spots, covering a lot of areas, so it is a fairly powerful piece. Now of course, if let's say the opponent's pawn was here, then I could take that off the board. Checking the king with the knight would have to be pretty close to the king in order to be able to attack. For example, from here it would be possible. Moving this way here, now it would be attacking the king, or moving here, same move, it is again attacking the king. Now this way it wouldn't be attacking the king because it cannot turn on the sharp angle. However, from here it is attacking the king because that is a check there. Okay, let's look at the rook. The rook is the most powerful piece in this game. It can move diagonally and horizontally, and it can also turn within the same move when it starts on a diagonal. In fact, it must turn onto a horizontal, like that, or moving this way. And I will stop here because YouTube only allows 15 minutes in a video, so I will have to continue in part 2.